Welcome to the Limelight podcast, where authors, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders step forward to share their ideas, stories, and strategies. I'm Clarissa Burt, inviting you into thoughtful dialogue, refined insight, and an esteemed way of living. Hey everybody, it's Clarissa Burt here. How exciting that we are going to have a story that I'm really thrilled to talk about, not only because I could say that I was born in proximity, if you will, to what we're going to be talking about today, but talk about history. This 250 years worth of history behind the Spring Grove Mill House. And we're going to be speaking to the author today, who is Brigadier General David Deputy. There he is, and bringing him on. Hello there, sir, and welcome.
Good, great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's so good to see you. Obviously, being born in Philadelphia, was in proximity to Delaware, and a lot of historic things and monuments. Philadelphia, obviously, was there many times as a child. The Liberty Bell, the first flag, all the things. But there's so much more history in that whole general diaspora. So I was hoping that with this conversation today, we can bring back some history of some of the fabulous things that happened in that area back in the day. I know we talk about George Washington. Let you take the reins here now, and you can tell us what the book is about. Again, go ahead, sir. The floor is all yours.
The house we purchased about 8 years ago, my wife and I, Florence. It was basically a renovation project. We didn't know there was going to be a lot of history. We are close to Philadelphia, about 20 plus miles away. Right. And a lot of the Revolutionary War activity that happened here was related directly to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. But getting back to acquiring the house and discovering the history, we were only told it was built in 1880, they said, which was wrong. And it was the DuPont family had owned the house at one time. It was called the DuPont Ross House. But that's about all we knew. We were focused on renovating the place to make it, presentable versus studying the history. But about 6 months after that, our in-laws brought a map of the general area here, and in the center of the map was local, and it had a dot for where our house was, and it was an 1868 map, so we knew it was older. So I started digging deeper and try to find the deeds for, since the house was built, and ended up tracing the house back to 1813.
Wow.
And but the property was active in the early 1700s. There was a different house on the property, mm-hmm. and there were 3 mills on the property. We didn't know there was mills on the property. It was all a big surprise to us. So as we were digging into the history, Florence found a presentation online, and I was clicking on some links, and my whole screen filled up with a map. And in the center of the map was a yellow flash, which represented combat. And I looked, and it was exactly over my house. And then I glanced up at the title, and it had 1777 in the title. And
wow.
Oh my God, this house has Revolutionary War history.
Right.
And so after that, I had to find out everything about the house. And it turns out that the subtitle of the book, the Spring Grove Mill House.
Oh, with the most ties to American history. Yeah, there it is.
Exactly.
Look at that house. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, that was a pencil sketch by one of the previous owners.
Oh, so beautiful.
And the family gave me permission to use it on the cover.
Yeah.
So, we started digging and finding more and more War of 1812, Civil War, Underground Railroad, Industrial Revolution. There was a kidnapping story, Delaware Park founding. It just goes on and on, and it was all older history, which is great. That's what I was, dreaming of.
Yeah.
But I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if it was related to something more modern, like the Kennedy assassination?
Yeah. I saw that on the website. Yeah.
And it turned out that there was stories tying the house to those things as well. So,
go ahead.
I have a law enforcement background, so I was a major crimes detective. So I sort of handle this as a investigative history, like a cold case, but a 250-year-old cold case. And it was really a joy for me, being a retired state trooper to kind of
Right.
go back to investigating again. And I kind of present it. So it's kind of the combination history book and true crime stories kind of flavor to it
Wow.
because the history's newly discovered. I found a lot of primary sources, but um, because it was new, I felt like I had to present the evidence. And the subtitle, it's a pretty bold statement saying your home is the most ties to American history.
Yeah.
What I do, it's really designed, the book's designed for the reader to be the jury. It's reading this crime novel, uh, nonfiction crime novel,
Right.
and
Right.
and they're as they read it, they get to see all the evidence and get to decide for themselves. So it's a fun journey. Um,
How long
and
did
it,
it take you to pull together all of the history? I mean, with all of that history, what paths did you start to go down? Where did you find because we don't go to the encyclopedia anymore. Where
yeah,
are we finding the information that was actually pertinent to those many years ago? We're talking 250 years ago, if not more, right? We talk
right.
about, so what paths, it must have been, overwhelming to start the history on the house.
Well, you trace the deeds back. You go to the deeds office and you
Right.
trace them all the way back. And then you have, unfortunately, there was a lot of different people that owned the house. So that made the investigation more interesting because there's more people you have, the more potential you have
Yeah.
for connections.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after I got the deeds checked, I started investigating the people that lived here and looking at old newspapers through newspapers.com. Because it was a milling site, it was a little bit more attention drawn to it in archival information.
Yeah.
So that was helpful. But you know, I believe that people should look deeper into things and find, the meaning behind things, the
Yeah.
objects,
Yeah.
and this it fell into that. But I can't say that this would ever happen again because there were so many miracles involved in not only acquiring the house, but just finding each piece of the history. It took me 8 years to get each piece
Yeah.
of it
And
together.
did you find pieces around the house, or did you call a metal detector guy out to sort of,
Yeah.
no, what did you find? That's amazing.
Well, we didn't find anything on the property itself,
Yeah.
but I didn't really. The best thing that could happen was I'd find something that somebody else found because if I found a cannonball, somebody'd say, "Oh, you could have bought that at an auction and
Yeah.
found it there."
Yeah.
So I always envisioned there would be somebody in the community from way back that found something
Sure.
related to the Revolutionary War event, and that
Right.
ended up being a cannonball. Back in 1992, a 3-year-old found a cannonball in a little stream when he was looking for salamanders,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was the same exact size of what the diaries indicated was used here,
Right.
and at the same path of direction of where they were firing. So
Right.
that was really exciting.
Right. Well, I guess the next question kind of just comes, to me would be, is there any paranormal activity in the house that you've been able to detect?
Well, yeah, the first time I drove down the driveway is very long. It goes into the woods. You can't see the house from the main road, Stony
Yeah.
Batter Road.
Right.
And you can just feel it. Like, I think I'm extra sensitive to feeling things,
Right.
but I mean, I knew there was some wild history to uncover, but I didn't know what it was
Right.
going to be. I didn't know it
Right.
would cover every major event in American history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so I didn't have training. I wasn't most of the stuff I wrote was search warrants and, arrest indictments. So was, it was my first crack at writing a book. And one of the things I like about doing something new is sometimes it creates something new that other people that wrote books, there's been 200 million books
Yeah.
written.
Sure. Of course.
And according to chat, this is the first book where in the preface of the book, it tells you to read the last chapter first. And people are amazed by that. The reason is because I talk about the miracles involved in acquiring the house and, not so much the history. So I didn't want to put it in the first chapter.
Right.
Of course, I credit God for so many miracles. There's no way,
Yeah.
humanly possible. It could be
Right.
something, had to be something miraculous. So I put it in the last chapter, but I tease it in the preface and say, read that and then go back to the beginning. Well, what
Yeah.
that does, it gets you to know me as a person because the
Right.
last chapter is more personal. So when you go back and read the book, you're going through like a 250-year journey with somebody you hopefully know and like a little bit. So
Wow. So
that makes it
what's
special.
the one thing that of all the history and all of your research that absolutely floored you to find out?
Well, I kind of gave it away with the when I saw the map on the screen,
Okay.
but there were just so many things like finding out that there was a Apollo 11 connection. I'm talking to the lady in Alabama that lived here in the 70s, and she was telling me, yeah, my husband's company built Launchpad 39A for Apollo 11. Like, wow, I can remember where I was driving. It was such an
Yeah, of
exciting
course.
thrill to hear her say that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and just the Kennedy assassination stories,
Yeah, what is
interesting.
that? I was curious about what that was about.
That one of the houses that's on the property, the Spring Grove property, the person that lived there worked for the DuPont family and served with Lee Harvey Oswald in the Marine Corps in the
Oh.
1950s, way before the assassination.
Hmm.
Didn't like him. They knew each other and they didn't like each other, and he ended up taking a road trip to try to take care of him in Dallas. So they went on a road trip, but they only got to Tennessee. They got in trouble when they were trying to buy guns, and they were sitting in the police jail over the weekend while Lee Harvey Oswald was killed. But
Wow.
it's kind of a funny story because his wife was watching it live, thinking it was her husband.
Wow. How did the Underground Railroad factor in here? Who was living there then, and how was the
Yeah,
property used
uh,
in that time?
it was a cotton mill factory, a big factory, three or four times bigger than the house. That was built with the house in 1813 during the War of 1812. But the they switched from cotton to wool and had a U.S. Army contract during the Civil War to produce fabric for the Army. And but just before that, of course, the Underground Railroad was raging, and the um, the road that runs through my property, it's now my driveway. It doesn't continue on like it used to back then. Was a path of the Underground Railroad, so the road actually runs in between my house and the mill factory, which is only like 35 feet separation. So
Wow.
it would have been right past the front door. And ironically, being this is a cotton mill factory, uh, the slaves were actually following the same route of the cotton that was being
Right.
manufactured here.
So they
Uh,
actually stopped for some respite and some rest.
Well, we can't verify that, but the next mill upstream from me, which is less than a mile away, is a confirmed safe house, and so that's how we started to put things together. I'd like to be able to find that's one piece I would have liked to find more evidence to
Yeah.
substantiate, but I wanted to keep it in the book, everything I knew, so that somebody could add to it if they learned more, put the puzzle together.
And when you say the fires that almost destroyed everything, what's the story there?
The There was actually two fires. One was the mill factory caught on fire in 1891, and the only thing left was the stone walls.
Oh, wow.
And but it didn't affect the house, which is right next to it. So there's a little bit of suspicion
Right.
with that. Plus, milling was
There's
in a
there goes your background.
yeah, milling was in a decline, and all of a sudden they got $300,000 for insurance. So
Yeah.
um, that's probably what happened. Um, that After that, the milling operations were over for Spring Grove.
Right.
The DuPont family bought it, and they founded Delaware Park Racetrack
Right. Right.
out of this property and the adjacent properties, and that they had to change the constitution in Delaware to allow gambling, which they were able to do by
Okay.
actually Wilhelmina DuPont's husband became a senator to get that final vote in,
Right.
and then they opened Delaware Park. So
Wow.
that's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah.
One of the other interesting stories of kidnapping, the first kidnapping for ransom was in 1874, and the victim was one of my owner's father. But it's very interesting. So it wasn't even illegal back then because nobody would fathom somebody would do such a thing.
Go
But
figure.
when you hear the phrase, don't accept candy from strangers, it came from that specific case.
Okay. So the Delaware Park and the whole DuPont dynasty, you're saying something about racing glory here. Can
Yeah.
you elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, right after the Depression, actually before the Depression, Wilhelmina and Donald Ross got married, and they had a dream to build Delaware Park, and they bought all this land around my house and the land around it. But they changed the Constitution as I described, and got it actually built. So it helped the state a lot. I mean, we still benefit from having the Constitution changed because at one point 10% of Delaware's revenue was coming from gambling. So
Wow.
uh,
No kidding. There's something in here also about World War II soldiers' chance encounter with $250 million in Nazi gold that was hidden in a salt mine. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
well, that's actually one of my bonus chapters because it was a little bit remote off the book, but it is related directly to me personally because it's my uncle who found the Nazi treasure. He was honored by the Monuments Men organization,
Right.
and for finding at the end of the war, Hitler was trying to hide their central bank gold and art and things, and my uncle could speak fluent German,
Oh, wow.
and he was in Patton's army, and he made friends with some of the town folks, and they taught him where it was hidden, risking their lives to tell that, and you know, it's probably the biggest treasure in modern history as far as the
Right.
amount of gold and art.
Right.
So there's a whole. I'm hoping that will be my next book. Next couple of years to tell the
Yeah.
whole story. There's a lot of strange twists to that story.
Unbelievable. Well, it must be just amazing to live in the house, to live the house, to live the history of the house. What is one question that you want everybody to know that I didn't ask you about the house?
Well, since the Revolutionary War is the most significant event, I just elaborate a little bit further. Um, General Howe had 16,000 troops in 1777, and their mission that year was to seize Philadelphia. So they landed in Elkton, Maryland, 265 ships. It was like a D-Day of
Wow.
1700s.
Wow.
And so they marched towards Philadelphia. Washington was planning to have the battle that would end the war in Delaware. But General Howe was very good at avoiding conflict to reach his objective, which was to seize Philadelphia, which in his mind would have won the war because that was our capital. So Washington, they were kind of playing tricks on each other. If you ever read Mad Magazine, there's a spy versus spy
Yes.
part of that. It was kind of like
I remember.
General Howe and General Washington were kind of playing that game together.
Right.
And Howe almost got around Washington and seized Philadelphia without a fight. But because Washington found the British at Spring Grove, where my house is, he was able to reposition his 11,000 troops to Chad's Ford so that he could set up a position to defend Howe coming through for the Battle of the Brandywine, which is the
Right.
largest
Sure.
battle,
Yeah,
biggest battle of the
absolutely.
Revolutionary
Oh,
War.
yeah. Yeah.
So that's what the Revolutionary War event here wasn't a tremendous amount of bloody conflict,
Right.
but it changed the outcome of the war, or at least it sped it up because if Washington hadn't have found the British in time, they seized Philadelphia without a fight. The French would have been embarrassing, and the French wouldn't have come to our aid as fast,
Right.
and that would have drawn out the war longer,
Right.
created extra risk of losing the
Wow.
war.
So how are you going to be celebrating our 250th anniversary this year? How will you and the house and your wife? What's going on in the area?
Well, in the Hockessin, Delaware areas, we always have a big fireworks event downtown Hockessin.
Nice.
So we'll probably be there with the grandkids and
Absolutely.
a lot of the community that we know so well.
Sounds like the perfect day. A picnic potentially?
Yeah.
Or out to lunch or brunch, something along those lines. That sounds like an amazing day. I don't know what I'm going to be doing yet, but I just can't wait. I think it's it's a grant. I remember when the 200th that I do. I'm not old. I do remember the 200th, and so
Yeah, me too.
And what would it have been? 1976.
70s. Yeah, I was in Air Force basic
So that was,
training.
yeah, I was still in high school. I was a junior in high school. So I remember that one too.
I thought they would give us a day off, but they didn't.
Oh no, that's nasty. All right. Well, tell everybody where they can find the book again, David, please.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. So just Google Amazon books.
The
And
Spring
you'll
Grove
find
Mill
it there.
House. The Spring Grove Mill House, the home with the most ties to American history. And after this interview, I would say that is absolutely correct. Thank you again so much for being with us and sharing your home with us, and all of the history has been absolutely fascinating, David. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the In the Limelight podcast, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. You'll find my video interviews on YouTube and clarissaburt.com, and the audio version of the interviews you can get wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to connect with me on social, pretty much anywhere, and do stay well until we meet again in the Limelight.